Hello and welcome. Our top story today is from Uganda. The country's army chief has issued a chilling death threat to opposition leader Bobi Wine. And this is not the first time he has made headlines with his offensive posts. We're talking about General Muhoozi Kainerugaba. He is the son of President Yoweri Museveni, who recently won a 7th term. Kainerugaba is known for his provocative online posts, but he was unusually quiet during the election campaign. Right after the results were announced and his father was declared the winner, as expected, Kainerugaba resumed his provocative online postings, and his target was Bobi Wine. In a series of posts on X, he slammed Wine and said that he wanted to kill him, and he called the opposition supporters terrorists.
We have killed 22 NUP terrorists since last week. I'm praying the 23rd is Bobi.
Bobi is a derogatory nickname that Museveni's son uses for Wine. The Ugandan army chief also gave Wine an ultimatum to surrender.
I'm giving him exactly 48 hours to surrender himself to the police. If he doesn't, we will treat him as an outlaw rebel and handle him accordingly.
Wine has been in hiding since losing the election, and his whereabouts remain unknown. He has claimed that he escaped a military raid at his home, but his wife and family were still trapped there. Reacting to Kainerugaba's provocative posts, Wine accused the army chief for ordering raids on his home.
You ordered the raid on my house to harm me. I beat you at your own game and escaped. To cover up the shame, you claimed no one was looking for me. Here you are now, seized by fear and panic, and confirming your wicked plot against me. Anyway, I will resurface when I decide. Then you and your father can do whatever you want to me. But make no mistake, you will never escape the inevitable consequences of your atrocities against the people of Uganda. This is our country.
Wine has also posted a video from hiding, accusing Museveni of poll rigging and asking Ugandans to reject the alleged fake polls. Museveni's son took a dig at Wine by reposting his video and saying this was how he pleaded with Beyonce for a chance. Kainerugaba's fascination with Beyonce is no secret. Last year in March, she challenged Beyonce's husband, Jay-Z, to a duel and said that he was taking the pop star. Museveni has also been routinely targeting Wine in his posts. Last year in January, he said that he wanted to behead Wine. Another opposition leader on his target was Kizza Besigye, who was being jailed over treason charges. Kainerugaba said that Besigye should be hanged in broad daylight for allegedly plotting to kill Museveni. Besigye's wife has recently claimed that Museveni wanted him to die in prison. Apart from confessing love for Beyonce and threatening opposition leaders, Yoweri Museveni's son also made an explosive statement about wanting to invade Kenya in 2022. Kainerugaba is expected to succeed Uganda's politician to the throne. Back in 2023, he openly expressed his desire to be Uganda's president after his father. Then, in 2024, Museveni named him as the country's army chief. Critics say this move aimed to put Kainerugaba's political campaign on hold, at least for as long as Museveni wanted to stay in power. Museveni's government has long denied claims of a secret Muhoozi project, which was reportedly about preparing Kainerugaba's rise to power. Despite these rejections, Museveni has granted a significant amount of power to his son. Kainerugaba is Uganda's most powerful army chief ever. His father granted him some of the powers that were previously reserved for the president. This includes promoting army officers of high rank and creating new army departments. Well, in the latest elections, Kainerugaba was off the ballot, but the spotlight was still on him. Now it remains to be seen, how will Kainerugaba's rise further shape Ugandan politics, and how will the opposition leaders like Bobi Wine react to it? Also joining us to break down that conversation we've just had and the current situation in Uganda is Gilbert Kadiagala, Emeritus Professor of International Relations at the University of Witwatersrand, who's joining us live from Johannesburg, South Africa. Welcome to Firstpost Africa.
Thank you.
So looking at the conversation we've just had with Bobi Wine, he is talking about the current political situation and talking about fighting for freedom. What can you tell us now the election has finished, now Bobi Wine is in hiding, about the overall political landscape in Uganda?
I think the overall picture was to be expected. The elections have been held in Uganda for quite a number of years, but the problem is that it's a very heavily militarized political space, that the opposition has no chance really of making any traction within the larger context of where you have violence, where you have intimidation of political supporters of opposition parties and so on. So this victory by the Museveni and the national resistance movement was actually anticipated. And somebody has been in power for the last 40 years. It is very difficult to lose such an election, particularly since he has all the elements, all the instruments of the state, I think, to triumph. And this is exactly what has happened. So post the election, I think things are going to return back to normal. The opposition, Bobi Wine and some of the opposition groups have said, they're going to protest. But I don't think the protests are going to make a difference in the Ugandan context. The military is a military that doesn't countenance any opposition, any protest against the government. So I see a gradual return to normalcy, if you can call it normalcy. I think the opposition, knew very clearly within the larger context of an uneven political playing field, they are not going to make that much of a difference. And I think that is the reality of Ugandan politics.
Gilbert, let's look at those protests that you've spoken about there. Of course, the security crackdown on rallies and opposition was a feature leading up to these polls. We've heard, of course, from the military that so-called terrorists have been killed. Do you expect a further crackdown on opposition figures and supporters in the coming days and weeks?
I think there will be further crackdown on supporters of Bobi Wine and the opposition who attempt, in fact, to make any efforts to challenge the results. And I think this has been a very routine component of Ugandan politics, that any challenges to the ruling NRM is going to be met with force. So I am not surprised that the military is actually standing up and saying we're going to kill what they now call the terrorists. And the terrorists are essentially supporters of opposition party. So the key point here is the interesting thing about the election, that there wasn't as much violence as there were previously. So I don't know whether that tells us about the post-election environment, whether things will return to normal much more quickly, and maybe the military may not have to use a lot of force, a lot of violence as they did previously. And I also don't expect that there will be many people going onto the streets, because as I mentioned, it's very clear from the larger population that any dissent, particularly violent dissent by the opposition, is going to be equally met by repression and reprisals from the government. So people really don't want to die, especially in these kinds of context. So that's why I anticipate that there's going to be, in fact, a very quick return to normalcy. There will be isolated violence, as to be expected, but my point is that there won't be any widespread challenges to the Museveni government.
Gilbert, thank you ever so much for joining us on First Post Africa. Also, thank you to Bobi Wine, who joined us from an undisclosed location in Uganda. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
The world doesn't fit in boxes, so why should your news? From battlefields to negotiation tables, from internet outrage to real-world injustice. The conversations everyone is having and the ones they're avoiding. It's the same show, but this new year, First Post America gets a new look. I'm Kerry Johnston, and this is First Post America.